We check your social media content and censor it when it's not factual. You have no right to human expression unless it's factually correct. And that's a fact. How do we know what the facts are? We literally know everything. As fact checkers, we outsource people's truth. Instead of them making up their own minds, we do it for them because people are too stupid to think for themselves. You know when you were a little kid back in school, how everyone liked the know-it-all? Well, I'm that know-it-all. You're wrong, 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 false. We get our most factual facts from very uncorrupt sources, like the World Health Organization. They don't even need to be fact-checked. Oh, a video of a riot in Portland? False information. Looks like a peaceful protest to me.
Another yet extremely accurate but satirical video by Awaken with JP Spears. Definitely go check him out. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Kadowski of WeAreChange.org. A lot to get into, especially regarding those peaceful protests that have now hit Los Angeles, New York City, and of course, Philadelphia. Yep, we're going to be getting into all of that, plus a lot more, especially with the talk of federal troops and the National Guard intervening. A lot to discuss there, especially with the events still unfolding right now. And before we get into that, plus a lot more, we have to remind you that right now we're living in a world where if you speak the truth, you risk getting your livelihood taken away from you, you risk being censored, you risk being jailed, and you risk putting your life on the line, as demonstrated by examples like Julian Assange and Edward Snowden before us. This is all done in the disguise of fact-checking, which should be an absolute oxymoron of a statement. But as we're speaking right now, information about the riots in Philadelphia and even other news organizations are just being completely censored on many social media platforms, including Reddit, which just banned Zero Hedge, which was banned on many other social media platforms beforehand. A lot of important conversations about the civil unrest are just being snuffed out, as many people who are calling themselves journalists are sucking up to power by trying to defend big tech billionaires controlling every aspect of our free speech. And we have seen egregious manipulation of information and the censorship of speech. Today, we are finally getting some pushback, including from U.S. Senator Ted Cruz, which, by the way, I'm not a big fan of at all, but his comments directed at Jack Dorsey here, they are definitely worth noting and paying attention to.
So Twitter takes the view you can censor the New York Post, you can censor Politico, presumably you can censor the New York Times or any other media outlet. Mr. Dorsey, who the hell elected you and put you in charge of what the media are allowed to report and what the American people are allowed to hear? And why do you persist in behaving as a Democratic super PAC, silencing views to the contrary of your political beliefs?
Very pointed words at the CEO of Twitter, which some people said looked like Jack Dorsey just lost his Wilson, as if he was in the movie Castaway. There's a full video of this exchange with Jack Dorsey, which you could watch, which we're going to be linking in the description of this video. Just so you know, you could fact check yourself, just so you could have some discernment, just so you could actually, be a critically thinking human being, not a poor peasant serf plush toy for the establishment. But anyway, I think it's very clear that there's a lot of hypocrisy on social media, and there is an extremely huge amount of power and influence that is going unchecked, and then, of course, is being abused. We also have information coming in right now that Senator Ted Cruz is accusing Jack Dorsey of lying, specifically when it comes to Jack Dorsey's response about the New York Post Biden laptop story, which Jack Dorsey said wasn't blocked, but from some accounts it looks like it is. On that note, the New York Post, one of America's oldest newspapers, believe it or not, is still locked out of its account. It hasn't tweeted since October 14th, and their voice has been essentially snubbed from one of the biggest platforms where the majority of political discussions happen on. And on the backdrop of all of this, out of this summit, out of the hearings that are happening right now, we have to understand that politicians regarding this issue have just been issuing very strong words and essentially have been lame ducks when it comes to the ever-increasing, exorbitant amount of power and influence that these tech billionaires are building for themselves. Now, there is a new court case with the Justice Department going after Google's search algorithm, but still, again, we have to understand here, this is just not even just touching the surface of what is actually happening with the extreme amount of utter censorship and suppression that we are seeing by a small handful of billionaires that are using that power for their own personal benefit. Again, that's my personal take. That's my personal opinion on it. This is an extremely important issue to me. It's something we should be paying attention to and actively lobbying our, quote, representatives to actually have a backbone on. Because as we know, big tech has been accused of having the most influential lobby on K Street in Washington, D.C. And of course, like many, we have been affected by some of these measures. It's too many to even get into in this video. I could make an hour-long video detailing all the little things that have happened and significant things that have happened to this independent media organization that has absolutely stifled it in more ways than one. One of the biggest ones is, of course, demonetizing us, but that's okay because we started to work with companies that we actually like. One of them is safepreparedandready.com. They have really amazing, really yummy, storable food. Yes, it comes at a premium. If you're looking for survival food, you should definitely have a bag of rice and beans in your home or in your apartment. But if you're looking for some gourmet stuff that you may actually take out while you're camping or just to have in your car, I personally use this product. I have been for many years now. I think over 5 years now I've been with this company. Check out the website. I think their prices are reasonable for the product that they have. And of course, this will go towards supporting this independent media operation. Also, if you're looking to blow off some steam and be a part of some epic rage therapy, come check out the 2 separate events we are doing on Wednesday, November 4th and Saturday, November 7th, where you're going to be able to get your frustrations out on watermelons, pumpkins, cars, and government-connected pedo scarecrows. Yes, I just bought a flamethrower for this particular event, and you might not believe it, but there's a method to this madness, as there have been some studies showing that if you're able to rage for a little bit, you're able to blow off a lot of steam and actually have some benefits towards your mental state. So yeah, definitely just check out rage therapy as a way to help deal with some of the major frustrations in 2020. But hey, also if you're looking for some fun, check out the 2 separate events that we are doing in Manchester, New Hampshire. Now, in regards to unsanctioned, illegal rage events, we saw yet another huge demonstration of civil unrest in America's biggest city. The video that you're seeing right now is in Los Angeles. This, of course, was connected to a baseball team winning something, I guess, but concluded with, of course, more destructive behavior. We also saw similar destructive behavior in New York City, where there was clashes between protesters and the New York City Police Department. And then, of course, we saw massive rioting and looting in Philadelphia after the aftermath of yet another police-related killing. Now, again, when it comes to these particular events, we have to understand that the media has been absolutely horrible covering these events. I mean, look at the AP's coverage of this. They regarded the very violent, targeted theft and destruction of people's personal businesses as, quote, something that was somehow unrelated and was pilfering of stores, leaving many people, including myself, asking, what? And again, depending on where you get your news from, you're going to hear one particular story, one particular angle with a certain group of facts tightly aligned, push a certain narrative. And if you get your news from a completely other source, you're going to get a completely different narrative, different facts surrounding this event. And again, just like everything, we have to understand that the truth is always somewhere in the middle. Now, one side, specifically the side of the family of the victim, is saying that they called 911 to help with the victim who had a mental health crisis. Police showed up allegedly to them. They laughed at him before they shot him when he refused to drop a knife. The other side of the story is that this man did have a knife and was going towards the police defending themselves by shooting him, essentially killing him, and now they're bringing up his record of how this victim held a gun to a woman's head before before and was awaiting trial for a separate incident where he threatened to shoot another woman. Regardless of that, I think we could all agree that this was a very unfortunate event. We could only hope for justice after we get all the facts of this case here, while at the same time not jumping to conclusions during this very tumultuous time. We should definitely call out the politicians and other media pundits who are using this situation for their own power, and I think we could all agree that absolute senseless violence doesn't help or solve any of this at all. But regardless of that, we saw massive amounts of looting, just like we saw at the Dollar Tree, where perplexingly everything's $1. We also saw the local Foot Locker, of course, targeted as well. Many police officers retreated, lost control of the situation, and in many instances were largely outnumbered in certain areas where they were targeted, and then they later left. But again, someone needs to explain this to me, since there's actually some people on social media, there's actually some people on the mainstream media, there's actually some politicians either obfuscating this, acting like it never happened, or somehow thinking that it's okay. And I'm sorry, robbing businesses, stealing sneakers, and having a new pair of Jordans, how does that help anything? How does that solve anything? It doesn't. It's ridiculous. It deserves to be called out, as well as all the other extremely negative incidences that were associated with this response, which actually saw a group of Orthodox Jewish men who were there to, quote, support and show solidarity to this movement, who were harassed and physically assaulted for just trying to be there because of their religion. Yeah, gross actions like that deserve to be called out. Other journalists were assaulted or chased out of the area, and there was even reports of a separate protest taking place, mainly because the looters and rioters in one particular area were extremely racist against people because of the color of their skin. But again, when we have senseless mob violence, we have to understand idiocy prevails more than anything else, as we're seeing here from a video inside of a store that is black owned, showing that in a matter of seconds, their livelihoods, their business is just stripped away from them in what is just senseless mob mentality idiocy. Why do this? Who's going to be helped here? Who's going to get justice here? Hurting other people, including your own people in your own community, is not going to solve anything, and actions like this are only spurring on the police state and having other people literally calling for more of it. Now, in the backdrop of all this, we also have to understand that the National Guard largely are just usually a bunch of yokels that stand around and don't help a lot of the policing. They're more of a protective representation of standing around key infrastructure in a city, trying to prevent its destruction. Now, the executive office in the United States is talking about deploying federal troops that will try to quell the Philadelphia riots, but we have to understand here, National Guard is more of a symbolic security guard that is not really enabled with a lot of power. The National Guard was actually deployed during the riots that you just saw a video of moments ago in Philadelphia, and they just stood back and didn't do nothing. We also have to understand that the talk of using National Guards is becoming more normalized, as of course we are expecting more violence during Election Day, and of course the government is preparing for this, as Texas is sending its National Guard troops to 5 cities during Election Day. In Louisiana, the National Guard were even called in to try to thwart a cyber attack. But overall, we have to understand here, if you're living in a major democratic city in the United States, essentially, if there is a major situation with mob violence, you will be abandoned, as we have seen time and time again unfold all throughout 2020. You are on your own, and as a person who has moved out from one of these larger cities, New York City specifically, I am a lot happier here in the farmlands of northern New Hampshire. Yep, a lot less stress, a lot less crap, a lot less taxes, a lot less government intervention that literally stands by during riots, but they will be on you like white on rice whenever you commit a small offense based on made-up jurisdiction from a clown calling himself a politician. Yes, now in New York and in New Jersey, you will be fined $50 for not wearing a mask. Again, absolutely idiotic. It should be voluntary to wear a mask. The police will, of course, be enforcing this to the fullest extent of the law. They will be everywhere making sure you get your fine. But during real moments of chaos and destruction, be prepared to be abandoned. And hey, legally, the police department doesn't even have a duty to protect you. Yes, that's another important case that we discovered here a few years ago through our investigative reporting with the Joe Lozito story. If you don't know about that story, look up Joe Lozito, We Are Change, and be prepared to have your mind absolutely blown. That's my particular take on it. That's my opinion on it. If you think I was wrong, let me know why in the comment section below. It's okay to disagree with each other and still be able to have a normal conversation. I know that's a pretty crazy, radical statement in 2020, but that essentially is the truth. If you still believe in that, and if you found any of this information helpful, share it with your friends and family members. It is more crucial and important than ever that you take responsibility towards making sure that people know exactly what is going on, especially in this crazy, chaotic day and age of utter disinformation and propaganda by the social tech algorithms that are shoving down the corporate crap down your throat. You know, give people a little mint of, We Are Change. Give people a little mint of alternative media, of Corbett Report, of Jason Burns, or whoever it may be. Give them a little, Trust me, it goes a long way, and it's extremely important as to our organization existing. So, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, and this is why I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on WeAreChange.org.